Hi, my name is Nick Mancini. I'm the Northeast rep for Teroson, and today I'm going to be explaining the different set of requirements to recreate OEM seam sealer textures. The poster I have here is a great guide to help start you off with the correct parameters to create textures you see here on the left of the poster. The first product I'm going to go over today is our MS222, which is our anti-flutter material. This product works great when you're replacing a door skin, roof skin, or reattaching a foam dam to a welded-on panel like a quarter panel or a rocker panel. The great thing about it is when it's fully cured, it remains flexible, so you don't have to worry about it reading through a panel or shrinking or expanding. This first piece of equipment is our piston-driven sprayable seam sealer gun. As you can see, it has two different knobs on the bottom. Your blue knob controls your air, and your red knob controls your material flow. Since we're just going to be pushing out material, we want to turn our air all the way off and adjust our material flow down because MS222 is a very thin material. This is our cartridge opener. All of our cartridges have a metal tab on the bottom that needs to be removed before pushing out material. Just take the opener, press it into the bottom, and throw your metal tab in the trash. It also has a pointed end so you can open the top of your cartridge without introducing any contaminants into the material. Now that we have our cartridge open and our nozzle threaded on, we can load the cartridge into the gun and take our standard collar and thread it over the top. Connect your air line and you're ready to dispense material. You can either apply the material in blobs, like so, or you can apply it in a straight line like you would on a roof skin or an intrusion bead. As you can see, the material has great anti-sag properties, so you can put it on a vertical surface without worrying about it falling down. The first category on our poster is our door edge. For that, we're going to be using our door edge nozzle. As you can see, it has a round side and a flat side, which gives you two different tops of the bead. When you're using the door edge nozzle, you can trim it down to different widths to recreate different size OEM beads. If you're left-handed, you want to trim the left guide off. If you're right-handed, you want to trim the right guide off. All you have to do is take the knife and wiggle it back and forth to trim your edge. Now you can trim the nozzle down to get the appropriate width. You want to cut the nozzle at a 45-degree angle, and once again, you can just wiggle it back and forth and cut across. Now that I have my width determined, I can hold my nozzle up to the panel to make a witness line where I want my bead to lay on my flange. Now all I have to do, wiggle it back and forth, and make sure I cut across all the way, and my nozzle is ready for use. Bend the guide, and you have an excellent guide to make a perfect bead across the whole panel. The first seam sealer I'm going to be going over today is our 9120 heavy-bodied seam sealer, which comes in white and gray. Take my cartridge and thread my trimmed door edge nozzle onto it, and now I'm going to take our Powerline 2 gun and load the cartridge into the gun. Thread the collar on the top and tighten down my collar. Once you connect your air line, you can check your pressure on the gauge. The pressure on the gauge is the same as on the poster. Everything is written in bar. If you feather the trigger, it tells you what pressure you're running it at. Typically, for a door edge, you want to run it around 6 bar of pressure. The most important thing when you're doing a door edge or a trunk edge or a hood edge is making sure that you can reach from end to end without having any interruptions or having to move your feet. You always want to twist your nozzle a little bit so that your hose and your gun stock is out of the way so that you're not banging it on the panel as you try and make a straight bead. You can always do a test pass so that you know that you can make it from end to end, like I said, without making any mistakes. So now that I'm comfortable and ready to go, come right up to my panel, give it a full trigger pull, and and I can make my way from start to finish with one perfect bead. A trick that I like to teach technicians is the packing tape trick. Lay your packing tape out on a flat surface with a guide, like a table or a bench, and you can trim your nozzle for the hard to reach areas that sometimes you wouldn't want to work overhead. Trim your nozzle and apply a bead on your packing tape, and then once your material is dry, you can peel it off the packing tape and butter the back of it with the same material, your 9120 heavy body, and stick it in a hard to reach area. Now with our same heavy body material, I'm going to go over our T2 nozzle. The T2 nozzle has a flat side and a notch side. You can either use the notch side in your panel overlap to get a nice straight line, or you can turn the nozzle over and it leaves a line down the center like you see on some of your interior beads. Again, we're going to take our cartridge opener and open our container, thread the nozzle on the top, and we can load it into our gun. Connect my airline and check my pressure. For these ribbons, you want to run it between 4 and 6 bar pressure. All that information is listed on the poster. Now, if we lay the gun up on its nose and pull the trigger, it gives you a nice flat top bead. If you lay the gun back, it gives you a sharper edge bead with a little bit more build. Turn my pressure down a little bit. And now what I can do is our stack of dimes texture by rocking the gun back and forward. Now if I turn my nozzle over and lay the gun back, it gives me that nice line down the center. Now I'm going to talk about our Sprayable 9320 seam sealer. It comes in ochre and gray, and when you purchase the seam sealer, it comes with 2 different nozzles. You have your inner nozzle, which threads onto the cartridge. You thread the blue collar over the top, and now you can thread the outer collar on. Like I said before, your blue knob controls your air, and your red knob controls your material flow. On the poster, it says open the knobs all the way and then give them half a turn back. Connect your airline and you're ready to spray. For your underbody texture or your rocker chip guard, you want to be about 6 inches away from the panel. Give it a full trigger pull. Half a trigger cleans the outer nozzle. And the great thing about this gun is it has a 0 cleanup function. The material never runs through the gun, so you don't have to worry about running thinner through it or cleaning it. All you have to do is remove your collar and change your cartridge out, and you can go from spraying beige to gray without having to clean anything. Now I can go from spraying my ochre to my gray without having to clean my gun. Thread my new cartridge in, put my outer nozzle on, now when I peel my tape, it gives a nice crisp line. As you can see, you get great one coat coverage with a nice build, so you don't have to go coat after coat to achieve full build. Our sprayable seam sealer is also brushable, so by turning my air off and lowering my material flow, I can apply my seam sealer to my panel and take one of the Teroson brushes, which are made out of nylon, so you can actually clean them and reuse them. The nice thing about them is they're not going to lose bristles like a typical acid brush would, so you don't have to worry about picking pieces of your acid brush out after you brush in your texture. You can brush your texture. And the great thing about our 1K seam sealers is there's no solvent that needs to evaporate. So as you brush them is how they're going to look when they're completely dry. And I have plenty of work time to be able to peel my tape without having to worry about lifting the skin up and having any material lifting problems. Now all I have to do is take a rag and wipe my excess material, take a little bit of thinner in a cup, and wipe the brush back and forth. After cleaning your brush, you want to make sure that you set the brush aside so that you're not brushing any solvent into your seam sealer. Another bead we can recreate is our spray seam. For this, you want the gun about 1 inch away from the panel, 1 to 2 inches. Give it a full trigger pull, just like your underbody coating. As you can see, our sprayable seam sealer gun has excellent transfer efficiency, so you don't have overspray covering your panel. Here we have our cartridge heater box. As you can see on the front, you have your plug and your on-off switch. On the side here, we have our temperature setting. Right now, the heater box is set on 65 degrees Celsius. The way you can tell is whichever button is out is the setting that the heater box is on. Right now it's on 65. If we flip it, now it's on 90. All you have to do to open the box is push these white tabs outward and lift the lid. You can heat 6 cartridges at a time or 4 foil packs. Now we're going to be talking about our ripple beads, which you see on most of the production vehicles on the road today. We're still going to be using our MS222 Intro, but we're going to be using it with our flat stream nozzle, and the material has been heated in the cartridge box for about 30 minutes on 65 degrees Celsius. With the flat stream nozzle, it has 2 bars on it. Which way the bars are running is the way that the slot runs. And if the bars are going up and down, you want to move your cartridge left to right. If the bars are going left to right, you want to move the cartridge up and down. Load the cartridge into the gun. Thread my collar on the top. And the parameters for this are between 8 and 15 bars. So what I like to do is start it around 8. And for this texture, you want to keep the gun at a 90-degree angle with the panel. You start close and spraying on paper, and then you work your way across and wipe the nozzle at the end. The reason that you want to start on paper is so that you can see your material flowing out to make sure that you have a proper flow when you get to your seam. Keeping the gun at 90-degree angles, 90-degree angle, pull the trigger, and there's our nice thin ripple bead. Turn the pressure up to make it a little bit wider. Same technique. And as you can see, by turning the pressure up, it makes the bead a little bit wider. Turn my pressure up again. and you get that nice wide bead that you're looking for on your rear body panels or quarter panels. Another great thing that you can do with this material is you can lay the material on top of itself. Rather than laying a bead, waiting for it to cure, and then laying another bead on top of it, all you have to do is lay your material right over your first. Now we're going to be using our wide stream nozzle to show how to recreate sound pads that you see sometimes in a trunk or on an inner wheelhouse. What you do with this nozzle is the same as your flat stream nozzle, but you want to heat your material for a little bit longer to make it nice and thin. For this, you want to run your pressure a little bit higher so that it can spray out fully, and you want to start your material on paper, and as it starts to spray out, you can back it off to get the full spectrum of spray. Give it a full trigger pull, and spray out your nice wide sound pad. Turning the pressure up, you can get it to spray even wider. Depending on how long you heat the material in the heater box, that'll give you your difference in width. That wraps up today's video on how to recreate OEM textures. Hopefully this video will be a helpful guide on top of using the poster to help you recreate OEM seams.